back to the podcast. Today we have our first official episode, episode 1. I am your host, Jamie, and I am joined by my co-host, Evan. Say hi,
Here I
Evan.
am. Hi, Jamie.
There he is, sparkling just bright like a diamond. You love to see it. And for today's theme, we have zombies. Okay, because what better way to bring the podcast to life than with the undead? And we couldn't do a zombie podcast without our resident zombie experts that we have here at Ryder Games, which are AJ and Julie, who are also here. And we're going to give them a chance to introduce themselves and let them know a little bit more about you. But say hello, AJ and Julie.
Hello, AJ and Julie.
Hi.
AJ understood the assignment.
My son is rubbing off on me. He always, at the end of the baseball game, they say, whatever the team, they say party animals on 3, and he'll say party animals on 3. So took a page out of his book.
It's a classic joke. I love it. So to get started, we like to do a little part of the podcast where we just talk about like, what have you been up to lately, so that we can all kind of catch up with each other a little bit. So AJ, let's start with you. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to get started, and then tell us, what have you been up to lately?
Sure. I'm AJ Porfirio, president of Ryder Games, and I'm so happy to be here on the first inaugural episode of the podcast, so thanks for having me. And lately, what I have been up to is, so I want to talk about, I've been playing Dune Imperium again. I played it a while ago, several times. I love it. It is a 10 for me. I decided that and went and bought both expansions and the upgrade packs, and I even went and painted those recently, so I have the Dune fever. Obviously, a lot of that is triggered from the movie, which I greatly enjoyed the second one a lot more than I enjoyed the first one. So yeah.
That's interesting.
Interesting.
Because I haven't seen the second one yet. I'm excited.
I have only seen the first hour of the first one.
Yeah,
wow.
The first one, honestly, like, I wasn't going to even go see the second one because I wasn't the biggest fan of the first one. It was a little boring to me. But everyone's talking about how good the second one was. I was like, okay, like, fine. So I actually rewatched the first one. I enjoyed it a little more the second time, but still kind of meh for me. But yeah, the second one I really, really enjoyed.
What happened an hour into watching the first Dune, Jamie? Did you fall asleep?
If I did fall asleep, I was confused. I thought that spices were a food, and then I found out they weren't, and I was so lost. And of course, Jeff's read the books, he's seen the movies, played the game, he knows all of it, and I was that person that was like, "What? Who's that? Who's that? What does that mean? Where are the spices? What's going on?" I thought this was a cooking show. It's not. Okay. So yeah, I need to finish it because we really want to go see the second one for sure. All right, Julie, our second special guest, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us, what have you been getting up to lately?
Hi, I'm Julie Ahern. I am the Senior Director of Operations here at Ryder Games. And I am moving. So there's not a lot of games out right now. They're all in boxes, and there's a lot of boxes. So what do you do to decompress at night when your house is completely packed up? You watch some True Detective. I've been watching True Detective back from season 1 all the way through because season 4 is out now. So I watched some very dark themed True Detective going on, and it's just as upsetting as I remember it being.
Which season are you in?
I just finished season 1, and I'm starting season 2.
Season 2 is pretty not amazing.
I know, but completionist in many things, not just board games. So we're gonna go through the whole thing. And season 1 is pretty spectacular, and of course even more so because nobody knew what to expect. And it's funny because you talk about that, but Robert's been the one falling asleep when we've been watching it. And then I have to stop, and I can't, I complete the episode because I'm not going to stop mid-episode, but it's really hard not to be like, just one more when I know I'll get complaints the next day.
Well, Jamie, what have you been up to?
Well, I myself just did a 24-hour all-you-can-play board game-a-thon where I stayed up for 24 hours, and I, in fact, played board games for pretty much a full 24 hours. So I've been playing a lot of board games, but I'll talk about one that kind of stood out to me the most during the game-a-thon, and that is a little game called Tinderblox. Has anybody played Tinderblox
No.
here before? Okay. It is a
No.
dexterity game where you have this little tiny tin, and in the tin there's these cubes that represent like a fire, and you're building a campfire, and you have tweezers, and you pull a card and it will tell you like what to stack. This was at 3 a.m, and Jeff and I beat Tinderblox. I've never done it before when I'm not tired, but we got every single cube out. We built this huge tower, and everybody in the chat was just like losing their minds. It was like, it's one of my proudest moments. I'm not going to lie. I really feel that
It's a huge
way
accomplishment.
it is, because sometimes you have to use like your left hand and everything. And it was crazy. And it's kind of one of the things that I remember the most after being awake for 24 hours. So that's what I've been up to, playing board games, but specifically of all the games to stand out, it was a tiny little dexterity game, which I love.
Clearly
Heartfelt congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Clearly, that was before the shaking started from playing
Yes.
board games so long.
The shaking started around 6:50 a.m. and I was like, we need to stop now. And I went to bed and I was like, like physically not doing super great. But overall, it was 24 hours of pure fun besides that last
So you
moment.
did make it the full 24 hours.
We did. Yeah, it was crazy. I think I had a 10-minute nap. I tried to have a 10-minute nap, and other than that, I was awake.
Yeah, at some point your body you begin to react like you're drunk, and the
Yes.
later it gets, the more drunk you become.
Yeah, we were looped.
I will say you are more high energy than you were even yesterday in our meeting.
Yeah, I was still
So-
like, because it was 7 a.m. when we finished, and I just slept for until like noon, and then you wake up at noon and you're all confused still because you're like, I still haven't slept. So it was a bit of a while before I got back to normal. Yeah, good times. What about you, Evan? What have you been up to?
Well, I have been watching not horror movies, but horror adjacent movies with my very good friend, Ryan Bruns. Shout out to Ryan the Hawaiian, who works for Julie's husband. And let's see, we watched Zone of Interest, which again, it's not a horror movie, but it's very close to it. Basically, it was nominated for Best Picture this year, and it's about the family of the guy who runs the Auschwitz concentration camp and what their family life is like, just being right outside the walls of the camp. And it's pretty unsettling and horrifying without actually being a horror movie. And then we watched
Interesting.
Saltburn, which is also kind of horror adjacent, but not exactly a horror movie. It's hard to describe. It's about this guy who goes to this very rich estate and slowly begins to worm his way into everyone's lives, and then horrible things start to happen to everyone, and then it ends.
Then it ends.
Yep. And then the last movie we watched was Infinity Pool, which is closer to a horror movie. It's directed by Brian Cronenberg, David Cronenberg's son, David Cronenberg, who directed The Fly and all these. He's really into body horror, which is like my least favorite kind of horror. And so I was wondering if his son was going to go the same route, and he kind of does. It's got Stellan Skarsgård? I get the Skarsgårds mixed up. There's all the
There's so many of
Skarsgårds.
them.
The baby Skarsgård.
It's the medium, the middle Skarsgård, the tall,
medium.
The most
medium one?
medium one.
not Bill, the guy who played Pennywise. Stellan, I think, is the dad. You know what? Is one of the Skarsgårds. It's kind of the tall Viking one. He was in that Viking movie.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, he and his wife go on holiday in this made-up country, and this is kind of it's not really a spoiler. It's kind of a spoiler. What happens is it's this really, really poor Eastern Bloc country. It's completely made up. But when you commit a crime there, it's basically the death penalty for any crime. And when you commit a crime there, however, if you're rich enough, you can pay to create a body double of yourself that gets murdered in your place. But it's like an exact replica of you, like has all of your memories and everything. It's kind of doesn't make a lot of sense that this really poor as dirt country that just executes everyone somehow has the resources for this like amazing cloning program that they only use
Details.
only use to execute the clones of rich people.
So specific.
It's very specific, and I might have spoiled too much. None of you are probably particularly interested in this movie at this point. When I got to the end, I don't know if I particularly liked it. So there you go.
I'm actually intrigued. They do a lot of that kind of thing in a lot of sci-fi, and how it's handled is always the interesting part. Like, it's definitely not a Star Trek episode.
No, a lot of it had to do with which one of you is getting murdered. Is it you? Like, are you the one that got to survive, or did your clone? Like, are you your clone? And then they get real excited about watching themselves get killed. So then it becomes this weird fetish thing where they're actually intentionally committing crimes so they can get cloned again, so they can watch themselves die again. I'm really spoiling a whole lot of it now.
There's not a lot to do in this fictitious country.
I didn't
get out much.
I didn't love the movie, so that's why I'm kind of spoiling it. But I apologize for anyone who was really excited to watch Infinity Pool and now has had it ruined by me.
But I do love the most medium Skarsgård brother, so I might still watch it.
Potentially father.
Exactly.
Not the father. Much younger and more attractive than the dad.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, great. So one thing that we're going to be doing every episode is we're choosing a word of the month, because this podcast is not just for those of us who happen to love and be slightly obsessed with board games and other things. So we're going to choose a word that kind of helps you dive into the hobby a little bit more, or perhaps it'll be about the topic. But today's word is mechanic. And I have said this word to people who are not board gamers, and you know where their head goes, like a car mechanic, and then they get very confused about why you're going to a car mechanic for your board games, and then it's just a whole other conversation.
There are people who insist on calling it mechanism instead of mechanic. I've had very long... Oh, Julie's raising her hand.
Julie's one of them. Okay, you can say mechanic or you can say mechanism. Whatever makes your heart feel happy. But in general, mechanisms in board games, I'll make Julie happy today, mechanisms in board games are kind of like the different forms of play. So if you hear somebody say worker placement is the mechanic of this board game or the mechanism, or drafting, they're talking about how the game is played. Does anybody have anything? I feel like, Julie, you have some strong thoughts about mechanisms, or at least the word.
I just had a conversation this morning how auction mechanisms are not my favorite in board games, and where the exceptions are those. So auctions in real life are very different than how they are played in board games. And in real life, I enjoy an auction. I like the human drama. In a board game, I find it stressful and takes away from most of the other parts of the game, typically, with exceptions being ones like Furnace, where you can bid on a card, and if you lose, your lower point value is how many resources you get instead. So it's not I spent all this time fighting for this card, and then I get nothing, and the person who is the more aggressive one at the table does. So depending on what it is.
Julie, do you like watching real life auctions or participating in them?
Both.
So you like participating in real life auctions, but you don't like participating in auctions in games.
Correct.
That is very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Yes. But we've already established this is not therapy. This is a podcast, so we're not going to unpack it.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm actually kind of interested now to know what everybody's favorite board game mechanism is, because like Julie, mine is racing, and in real life, I do not like racing because it involves running, which is something that I also do not enjoy doing. But AJ, what's your favorite?
First, let's pause for this commercial break. This segment sponsored by Gateway Island, a game featuring 21 mini games with each having different mechanisms so that you, a new board gamer, can learn what board games you like. And now back to the podcast.
Amazing.
So the question is, sorry, I've been waiting like a few minutes to do that.
He's been like holding that rule book like,
the game has been floating through AJ's screen for those of you who are just listening to it, almost like he's
I've been living Gateway Island for a little bit now, so it's on the brain.
Yeah.
So I am to tell
favorite mechanism.
Okay.
You got it.
Oh man, I'm so bad at choosing favorites because I just like so many different things. But I really love campaign games, games that tell a prolonged story, and I'll cheat a little. And emergent narrative, right? Like we have Final Girls, great at emergent narrative. But when a game, when the story forms in your mind rather than you having to read a bunch of text paragraphs to be told a story, man, to me that's one of the best things in gaming. So I love emergent narrative and campaign games. A lot of times they go together hand in hand.
What about you, Evan?
My favorite mechanic.
Rude.
I'm a mechanic guy too, I think.
Yeah,
Rude.
shade thrown, Julie. Shade thrown. I actually do call it a mechanic. My favorite mechanic is I've got two, but I'll just pick one. Hidden Traders, which is a game where you are trying to figure out which one of you is the traitor, and all of you are pretending to not be the traitor. And so there's going to be things that happen in the game that might give you clues, maybe just their behavior, maybe actions they've taken or whatever. And I love that in games because it gives me the opportunity to lie and betray people, which are two things I do not engage in my real life at all.
Is your other one hidden movement?
Game.
Yes, my other one's hidden movement.
So you like to hide is what we're learning. So do we need to go to therapy for you?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, there's absolutely some deep-seated reason for why I love lying in games, and I'm actually really good at it, but then I hate lying in real life and don't lie. And yeah, anyway. So
back to the therapy sessions we are.
To be fair, when you're so it's hard part of working on detective for you, being the chisel, you're so good at it. where you're giving people information and trying to hide whether it's good information or false information. You're really good at being the chisel. And I know that's.
Yeah. Evan's so good at social deduction that it's just, even so we do a game of werewolf every year at our New Year's Eve party, and everyone just immediately is like, Evan's the werewolf. There's no questions, no discussion. It's actually pretty interesting to watch. He's created a persona for himself that no one ever believes him.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I get executed quite speedily with no real information as to why I should be executed other than just that I'm existing. There
was actually a hilarious moment this year where Evan had literally proved he was not the werewolf, and the mob was after him before that. And then there was a pause in the room for 5 seconds, and then they're all like, kill Evan, kill. They just didn't care. They just wanted to take Evan out. It was hilarious.
It was a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah.
That checks out.
And some adults.
They were not listening. Yeah, and some adults.
Some
they were
adults.
not, but the teenagers were leading the charge, and then the adults just found it entertaining and went along with it.
Right.
They knew that I wasn't the werewolf, but they just wanted to see me die because that was going to be more fun than winning the game.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Evan, over to you for product of the month.
Oh, yes. So we are a board game publishing company.
What?
I know, shocking. We publish board games. Van Ryder Games publish board games. And so we're always going to be talking about one of our featured products of the month. And because this week's theme is zombies, our product of the month is something called Terror from the Grave, which is a Vignette expansion. And it's an expansion being a game that already exists. We've made another little thing that kind of adds to it and that adds more options to it. And Terror from the Grave is an expansion for our award-winning solo-themed, solo-only game, Final Girl. And the designer of Terror from the Grave happens to have helpfully joined this episode of the podcast. So, AJ, would you like to tell us a little bit about Terror from the Grave?
Sure. So Terror from the Grave is a Vignette expansion, as Evan said. So it is unique in the Final Girl world in that most of the feature films, as you guys know, come with a location and a killer. Well, the vignettes let us sort of just design the killer side of it. And so that's what this is. And it is my, I guess, second love letter to zombies, because my first was the first game we ever made, If I'm Going Down, back when it was just me. And I'm so happy now to have all of you lovely people here with me to share in the joy of this. So yeah, Terror from the Grave. I love zombies. I've loved zombies from the beginning. Zombies are why I got into publishing. And so we owe a lot to zombies, everybody.
Thanks, zombies.
Thanks, zombies.
Yeah. So, but in Final Girl, you know, the challenge was, okay, how do I take this game that the core mechanics are more focused on a single killer and make it so that it works with zombies, which are, as we know, huge groups. They're not threatening by themselves, but when they become tough to handle is when there's a lot of them. So I knew I wanted to have a mechanism that the zombies could basically join, sort of start to form hordes. So if too many zombies get in a space, they form a horde, and the hordes become extremely dangerous, and their damage potential, I think, is actually the highest in the game currently, if they get very high on the bloodlust track. So the way you win is you have to you can win before the finale, but really zombies are spawning all the way up until the finale, and once you get to the finale, they stop spawning. So most games, to win, you're going to have to survive to the finale and then kill all the zombies. That's how you win. So yeah, it's a little bit different than your typical, just kill one killer in Final Girl, but I really enjoy designing that one.
Yeah, I love that one. I love zombies though, so it's always kind of like zombies are just relentless, and that's like, I feel like this really gives you the feeling of like, oh my God, will they just die? But they won't, because they just keep growing.
No, the answer is no.
Yep.
No, they won't. That's the whole point. They are the undead. So let's dive into this month's topic, zombies. It's why we're all here. As AJ said, zombies is the reason for the season. So we're going to delve into the chilling world of zombies, exploring the fascinating intersection of the myth, the science, pop culture, surrounding these iconic creatures. We have lots of discussion questions to kind of get through, so let's just embark on that journey of survival together and see whether or not, I guess, we would survive. So I kind of want to just start off briefly just chatting about what is our relationship with zombies. AJ's kind of touched on his a little bit. Julie has her own personal relationship with zombies. Evan, I'm sure that you do as well. So let's just chat about that. Like, why zombies? Like, what is it that kind of got us all into this feeling of like, this is like a thing. This is a thing for me that I think about. So whoever wants to jump in, talk about your relationship with zombies.
Zombies and post-apocalyptic stuff, which they go hand in hand typically, are interesting in that they're almost like they're horrifying visions of the future, but they're also things we dream about. They're like wish fulfillment scenarios, because in the apocalypse, there's no boss, there's no work, there's no responsibilities, there's no cell phones, there's no social media. There's just pure, like all of the problems we deal with on a daily basis no longer exist, and it's just a simple, can you survive? Can you survive this? Which I think is an intriguing scenario for a lot of people. Even if people don't like that stuff, I think that question of would I survive a zombie apocalypse? I mean, there's whole books people have written about how to survive a zombie apocalypse. And that's always a feature of these movies is people being clever and surviving, people not being clever and dying, and all this kind of stuff. So I think for me and for a lot of people, it's like this bizarre fantasy you get to engage in, which you actually recognize is secretly horrifying, but it's a lot of fun to spend time with and just imagine this alternate future where you just don't have to worry about any of it at all, except for undead people trying to kill you.
So what I find interesting about that, because that's apocalypses, and I agree. I think specifically zombies, one of the things that I find most interesting is, so, I mean, having just survived or a pandemic and the fear of that is that zombies are a manifestation of illness and death in a way that is tangible, of something specifically to fight, as opposed to just being sick. So I find it fascinating that there's horror of plagues and things like that too, but zombies are giving you a specific thing to attack back that almost gives you an action so that you don't feel powerless. And I think that there's an attractiveness to that too, that you actually have a focal point of something to fight against, as opposed to any kind of plague horror where, trying to find the cure is really or stay away from the people who are infected. It's a very different thing. And I think there's an attractiveness to that with zombies as well.
So basically, we deal with so much existential dread in our lives, and zombies came out in this. They kind of started in the '60s with Night of the Living Dead, which was a response to all of the fears of nuclear apocalypse and the Cold War and all that kind of stuff. So you're dealing with all of this existential dread of will the world end, which is nothing you can do anything about. But put it into the form of an undead walking creature towards you, and now you have something you can actually focus on and deal with and cut its head off and kill or whatever. And that is a lot more comforting than the notion that Russia could drop a bunch of nukes on us and you'd just be dead, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a relative thing. It's not about being actually attractive. It's just a feeling like you have some level of control.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are really smart.
That's a very good point.
I like watching the zombies kill people and the people kill all the zombies. It's amazing.
Flames. I'm the same as you, AJ. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. I said this to Evan in our episode 0, but zombies have become like my Roman Empire. It is something that I think about almost every single day. Like, I know where in my house I would go. I know like how I could hide and do all of these things. And, it's just something that I'm constantly thinking about, and I don't even know why I'm constantly thinking about it. Like, it's just something that maybe it's because I've watched too many zombie shows and zombie movies or whatever, but it could have been exacerbated by the pandemic or by The Last of Us, because now I'm afraid of mushrooms, because I think that's the way that we're going to go. Everybody's going to have a mushroom, and then they're going to turn into a zombie, and then I'm going to have to fight 2 things that I don't like, which are zombies and mushrooms. So I know, Julie, I know.
It's a good segue into it. So actually one of my favorite things is, and now I'm picturing Jamie versus Julie, because there's always a moment, right, where you have to face down someone you loved, right? Like the original is Night of the Living Dead in the basement with the little girl. And I mean, that's probably my favorite scene in any zombie movie, because the mother just cannot bring herself to protect herself against what was her little girl, but is now a zombie with no, it's not her anymore. But I just love that like dichotomy where it's like, you literally love this person 2 minutes ago and now they are gone. but their body is still there.
And you had no time to process that.
You had no time to process that, and that you now have to kill them, right? Like if you want to survive. And I love how that can play out different ways and does in different zombie media, right? Like sometimes they find the strength to like do what needs to be done, and sometimes they just sit back helpless and you know, become a zombie themselves. So I love that, like, man, that tension, that difficult like situation.
What would you do if the first zombie you ran into was one of your own kids, AJ?
I mean, come on, dude. I'm a survivor, but hey, that's all I'm gonna say.
I actually wrote a short story about my sister becoming a zombie, and I did it for Zpocalypse, a game that I co-designed about the zombie apocalypse. And it was one of the things, I think it was a stretch goal or something, where we were doing vignettes, and I didn't think about it at the start. I just picked somebody I knew because I wanted to do that experience and think it through. I wrote, it's 2 pages, it's a short story. I cried the whole time I was writing it. And then I called her afterwards and told her, and she's listening to me talk about it through sobs, and she's like, "You're such a dork." Like that was her response to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I actually, If I'm Going Down, just real quick, I love that so much that I implemented that as a mechanic. And If I'm Going Down, there's actually zombies who are loved ones, and you cannot attack them until they get right up next to you. So it's kind of like simulating that.
Yeah.
That sort of like, no, I don't want to do it. And then it's like, okay, last chance kind of deal. That game I learned a lot from, and it has its place, and you know, wasn't as well received as I would have liked, but that mechanic is one that I'm pretty proud of in that game. I really thought that was kind of cool. I don't know if I've seen that in any other zombie game. Julie, I don't know if Zpocalypse did something like that, but
not as specific. So in it, you have a squad, so you're managing 2 to 4 different people, and they all have a little bio and backstory, and several of them are related. So you have a mom and 2 kids. You have people who are a married couple who can be on your squad, and when they die, it's an abstract zombie on the board, but that is now who they were. And a couple of the characters, if it's their partner, they can't kill them.
Okay. And I'm sure Dead of Winter actually probably has some crossroad events and stuff like that have that too. Anyway.
So obviously, like, this is something we've all thought about a lot. Do you think that there's any scientific plausibility in a zombie outbreak? And if you do, or some kind of phenomenon, and if you do, like, what do you think is the most likely event that could potentially create this?
So I think AI takeover has jumped the odds chart, has jumped zombie takeover in the odds chart these days. But
True.
Zombies it's still on the board as potential end of world possibilities.
The betting pool in Vegas these days for AI versus zombies.
That's amazing that's a thing.
We love you, baby Skynet.
Yeah. A quick aside. So like yesterday, Leo was doing something with AI. A little AI program I have. Leo's my youngest son. He's 11, almost 12. And he started like, "No, you do what I want you to do," like getting mad at it. And I was like, absolutely not. I am not going to be the reason. We are not going to be the reason for the start of the war between robots and humans. I was like, you stop. Anyway, so, but zombies, yeah. I mean, the logic, I'm logic minded and very analytical. So I would say, I think it's very, 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 very unlikely. I don't really see the path. Like none of the origins of it really, if I think about them realistically, make a lot of sense to me. But I'm also a never say never. So I will put it at 0.0000001% chance that would ever happen. But hey, you never know.
I got in a huge fight with Jeff when we were making Zpocalypse because he wanted a zombie elephant, and that broke my brain in how would it jump from the human species directly to an elephant? And no, that doesn't make sense, and I don't agree with. And I went down the science of why to the point where I was like, why am I doing this to myself? So yes, I'm the same kind of thing where I think that it's very unlikely. Although there is precedent for certain levels of it, and I'm sure anybody who's a zombie fan has watched the nature documentaries about the parasites that cause insects to climb to the top of trees to help further the parasite's procreation. So there is some precedent for some minor way it happening. I don't know if an entire zombie apocalypse would ever be possible. I do love that the CDC embraced it and did the whole, when in a pandemic, how to handle it using zombies as an analogy. That was super fun to watch.
That was funny.
Go find them if you haven't seen them. They're a trip. But yes, I think it's still firmly in fantasy in my mind.
I think we can all.
I think that
real quick. I think we can all agree if it does happen, it'll be our fault, humans' fault somehow. Yes.
Of course.
We'll
for
probably
sure.
create it.
100%.
Yes, okay.
For sure.
Go ahead, Evan.
I was going to say, I think one of the things that makes some of the zombie genre so enduring is how long the zombies stick around. And that, I think, is the part to me that wouldn't quite work, because the human body needs stuff, like it can't last that long without sustenance and water. And I think probably more likely it would be some kind of drug or something like rabies, which would turn people crazy. But I think it would probably burn itself out real fast. And I don't think we'd have hordes of like undead shamblers roaming around for like years and years to come. That doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah, have you seen the?
So it seems like it would be.
Have you seen the Crazies? Speaking of crazy, that's an
I haven't seen the
underrated
Crazies.
zombie movie. I really like it.
Not that, a week of zombie apocalypse wouldn't be just as bad as,
That would be plenty.
I'm
That
sure
would be
that would
enough.
still be
We're good
terrible.
after that.
Yeah. I think like the most, obviously I don't think it will happen, and yet for some reason still plays on my mind that it's going to happen. But because after I'm stuck on The Last of Us because of the thing with the mushroom that goes into and makes people come back to life, because it does that with bugs. And somebody on TikTok did a little experiment where they put in that kind of like mushroom or whatever fungus parasite, and they used human flesh when they did it, and it started to I don't know, and everybody was like, just stop, just whatever, just stop, because this is how it starts, please. So I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but I'm just like, man, people will do just the dumbest things to try and prove that they can. So it's like, is there somebody out there that's going to be smart enough who tries to prove that I can make this thing happen, and then they create a zombie? I don't know. I don't have the answers to everything in life. That's for sure.
Well, if it does happen, we fully expect a live stream of you trying to survive. So
yeah, that would be
that
like
on your list.
Blair Witch style. They're coming after me.
In the middle of a zombie apocalypse, my number one priority will definitely be tuning into Jamie's live stream to see if she
Foster the zombie.
Foster the zombie. Like and subscribe.
I survived one more day. Come back tomorrow.
Meanwhile, as my handle everywhere is Mushroom Julie, I fully expect to be a zombie if that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah. Julie, listen, you've got the access.
I'm going to be the
mushrooms.
You'll be zombie zero.
Yeah.
So one thing that we see pretty much in every single zombie movie, show, whatever, is sometimes it's less about the zombies. It's more about the people and how the people manage life in an apocalypse. So how do you think individuals and societies would navigate the moral challenges in this kind of scenario? Like when you see something like The Walking Dead as an example, where everybody just turns on each other and it's, every man for himself, how realistic do you think that is? And how do you think society would react?
I think most of them portray is the concept of survival of the fittest. And so I think that to some degree that would probably play out. I mean, initially you'd probably have everyone working together, and if it got squashed quickly, but the longer it goes on, it seems as the more people are willing to, skirt their previous morals and do things maybe they wouldn't have in previous life. So yeah, I think it's pretty realistic that people would turn on each other and you'd start to have subgroups forming, and I think that's probably what would occur.
Mm-hmm.
I am 100% in disagreement with that. But I also think that mine is the less popular. Obviously, that is the majority of what's portrayed in all types of entertainment.
Wait, are you ready to say you think humanity would
No,
somehow
I
band
don't think
together
all
and
of
treat
no.
each other nicely?
I think the pockets of people who stay community would be the ones that would survive, and the ones that are the out for themselves would actually die off more quickly, is what I believe. I do believe that both will occur. I think that those who promote community will have better resources, better outlets, and also remain better psychologically adjusted to it because they have people to support a support system, and that in the long run they'd be the ones that would survive. We're more likely to survive, and the survivalists who are I can do it myself, everyone for themselves, would be the more likely to trip, fall, get nommed, be gone.
Get nommed.
Do you guys
Yeah.
think that? Do you guys think
Get
if,
nommed.
like, let's say it broke out, and do you think the military would bomb the point of origin to prevent the spread?
I don't think they would know what was going on fast enough to make that decision.
I think the pandemic pretty much proved that as well.
Yeah. I think.
Are you saying that
yes,
they should have bombed
like
the origin of the pandemic, Julie, just to be clear?
No, I'm saying that by the time there was a plan, it was too late.
Too late.
I think
I'm
there's
joking,
plenty of
of
people
course.
in the military who are ready, willing, able, and have thought through a zombie apocalypse because we're not the only ones doing it. I think it's the organization of getting something as big as an entire military to come up with it, to execute an actionable plan, is very unlikely.
It would require an enormous amount of information for all the people who need to make that decision to make it, and they wouldn't have that. And unless I think maybe Putin would do it. Like I think you've got some leaders who would do the knee jerk reaction, but in our country, like in the United States, absolutely not. We would not mobilize enough to even be able to make that decision. It would be way over before that would happen.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't know. I wonder, like, too, how people react if it is dependent on, like, where you are from. Like, I even think about, like, Canada versus the US. Like, I feel like more people might have to band together even in a small town than in a city. Like, what do you have access to? Because where I'm from, like, I don't know where you would get weapons. How would I even kill a zombie? I have a steak knife. That's all that I have. I don't know what I would do. And so I feel like you would almost need to come together as a bigger group because, like, how would you do it?
Just roll 5s and 6s. You'll be fine.
Well,
It'll be totally
and, you know,
alright.
that's what I do. Listen, the two-star
Two-star
queen's going to
queen.
be just fine, okay? I'm going to throw my dice at the zombies, and they're going to be like, oh no, she's come prepared for this.
That's it.
Listen,
So,
you just have to last the summertime, and winter comes and they freeze, and then you go around with like a
true.
chisel, and you just kind of
I don't
at
even
their
have a
brains,
chisel.
and you're fine.
I don't even have a hammer. We broke our hammer at home, and I don't even have one of those, so I wouldn't even have that as a weapon.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to send you a hammer.
Yeah. Send help. Oh my God. So yeah, we've kind of talked about a lot about the different like pop culture stuff, but I'm very curious to know like which works of zombie fiction do you find the most thought-provoking, the most influential? Like what are your favorites? Like what is your favorite thing in zombie pop culture? The big question.
Oh, wow, there's so much.
I mean,
I know.
You guys started
There's-
off.
I mean, my all-time favorite is The
Mhm.
Last of Us. So, which the video game in particular, but the television show is also was wonderful. So, Hands down, best piece of zombie related media out there, I think, personally.
Mhm.
I like The Last of Us, but there weren't enough zombies in it, actually, for me. I've never played the video game, which I understand there are a lot more
Yeah,
in there.
that's an important note that you have not played the video
Yep.
game. It's okay, continue.
I love 28 Days Later, the original Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead. TV series wise, Black Summer is one of my favorites. I think it was what I wanted Walking Dead to be until it kind of lost its way a little bit at some points. But the first, 3-4 episodes of Black Summer, the first season, are incredible zombie media, in my opinion. I love it all. It's just even campy, like back in the day, like Day of the Dead, I don't care. I just love it. Shaun of the Dead, like any way I
Shaun
can
of
get
the Dead is
zombies,
awesome.
I take them.
Yeah. So, played a lot of 7 Days to Die. I've above and beyond any other game on Steam, like ridiculously, it's lapped it, I think, 10 times more than the next video game I played, 7 Days to Die. I've played a lot of it. I read the Walking Dead comics before and so I watched at least the first 10 seasons as they came out pretty faithfully of the Walking
Are you talking
Dead.
about the comic? Or
I read the comic.
Comic's amazing.
Yep. And then watched like the first 10 seasons before I.
How many seasons are there now? Jeez.
I had
I
5
think
million.
there's 13,
There's
Oh,
13.
wow.
11.
There's 11.
Wow.
There's
And
11.
then, there was a lot of pausing and then now there's the new series. There's so much, and there's so many different facets of it. The one that I found the most fascinating, though, when we were designing Zpocalypse, was we all came together with our own interests, and so playing zombies and watching Night of the Living Dead, rewatching all of those. For me, the most fascinating early on was literally the somebody out in the woods with their camcorder that somebody converted so that they could upload it on. So it's like a shaky camcorder, somebody showing how to be a survivalist. That to me is a fascinating case study, like preparing and genuinely doing it to prepare for what they believed was actually the upcoming zombie apocalypse. Those to me are some of the most fascinating. It's not good entertainment, but it is really, really, really interesting to watch. And also I learned a lot of helpful tips about building things. So those.
Perfect. I am a huge fan of The Walking Dead. I know people have feelings. Evan has feelings about it. I have watched every season of The Walking Dead at least 4 times. And I'll rewatch it and then I'll put it back on. I enjoy the roller coaster of, is this season going to be good or is it going to be terrible? Who knows? I don't know. It's kind of fun. And I've read all of the graphic novels. And I don't know what it is about The Walking Dead, but I do thoroughly enjoy the story and the progression of how it goes from zombies are scary to people are scary. And the zombies decomposing more and more as the show goes on and all of that stuff. And I also just got to give a special shout out to Warm Bodies. Nobody talks about it. It's a book that I read. They also made it into a movie where a girl falls in love with a zombie. And it's just very weird. It's so good. The book is great. And Zombieland is another movie that I love because it's just so silly. I like that kind of thing.
Z Nation for that reason too. It was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a big Walking Dead fan, and I know people have feelings, but my feelings are good.
I need to mention, because Evan got on me for not having played Last of Us. Probably the last video game that I spent any meaningful time into was Left 4 Dead, which was an amazing, I thought, game where you could play as both the humans and the zombies. It was a great PvP for those of us old enough to remember that, I guess.
Yeah. We, AJ and I managed to get, I think we did it once or twice. We played Left 4 Dead with our kids. We managed to form 2 teams where it was me and my kids and AJ and his kids, and we all played Left 4 Dead against each other, and great. It was fantastic. It's just an enormous amount of work to get it set up and moving because it's such an old game that it's not supported by anything any longer, and it was a real hassle to get it going.
What about zombie board games? Does everybody have a favorite? Now, I mean, there's a few people here who might be a little biased because they have designed zombie board games, but do you have like an all-time favorite board game in the zombie genre that you just love?
And we can't pick our own, I assume.
Well, you can. You'll get judged about it, but you can.
It's weird. Like I feel like I'm kind of picky about zombie board games. I'm partial to Last Night on Earth just because that was what kind of got me back into the hobby and, started me back on the journey of board games after my professional baseball career ended. And I was like, what do I do now? So yeah, that, and for its flaws, like I don't know. I really like Last Night on Earth. On the flip side, the very first Zombicide, I'm going to tell this story. I'm still recovering from this. The very first Zombicide pissed me off more than any other zombie game ever has, because so obviously I'm a thematic gamer and designer, and in the first Zombicide, if you shot into a space with your friends, another person on your team, and zombies, you were basically like required to shoot your friends first. Like you were so bad that you just had to shoot your friends first before you could hit any of the zombies. And that to me was like, it broke the immersion. I got rid of it. I was like, the game was selling for a lot. I was like, I'm selling this game. I'm so mad. This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I'm still obviously not over it.
Clearly.
But they've fixed this, and I now enjoy Zombicide as much as the next person. And the Marvel Zombies actually won, in the latest one in particular. It's very strong, very good. They removed, in my opinion, a lot of the extra stuff that kind of was in the way, and with it being Marvel, obviously a cool license on it. So that's the most recent one I played, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
For me, yeah, Last Night on Earth and Zombies and All Flesh Must Be Eaten, the RPG, were a lot of influence of how Zpocalypse came about. So those were the early ones, influencers of what we want, what we loved, and also what we found lacking that we wanted to make Zpocalypse. But so yeah, and there's so many things. You've got Tiny Pocket Zombies, or Tiny Epic Zombies. You have, like, there's so many different things now that have at least a zombie variant. I would say in the more recent, I say recent, but Hit Z Road is one of my favorites. I think thematic wise, I really appreciated kind of actually what you do, AJ, of the packaging also feeling very, like, all of it feeling much more, and not just a movie, but an actual artifact kind of a thing. So I think the immersion is there as well. So, and I was told I'd be judged if I picked my own game.
but that's honestly, what you picked.
My own game.
Yeah.
I made the game I wanted for a zombie apocalypse game. We spent a lot of time on it. We took 2 years to come up with our first game, and revising it until it was what we wanted, which is not to say it's the best game ever, but it was absolutely the game we wanted to show for a zombie apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2. One is an older game called Earth Reborn that is more futuristic, post-apocalyptic, but there's zombies in it, and oh my gosh, it's a miniature skirmish game. I love it. You've got you can turn people into zombies. There's one zombie that is obsessed with this younger woman. He's kind of like a Frankenstein, and so you can you can use the woman to distract him. So it's a really weird game, but I love it. And then my second would be Zombie Kids.
So that's also really
which
good.
I played with my daughter. And Zombie Kids it's just the silliest, most colorful, fun zombie game you could think of. It's not violent or upsetting hardly at all. But she and I played through the whole thing. It's a legacy game, which means that the game changes. Every time you play it, you add stickers and do different things. And so the game becomes different. And she and I really enjoyed it.
Mine is Dead of Winter, but I love the Crossroads system in general. I've played all of the Crossroads games and I love them. And a new one that Jeff and I have been playing, which I will state right now, it's not the best zombie game, but I'm currently obsessed with it. It's called The Walking Dead, the dice game. And it's just a push your luck dice roller, dice checker game that is so much fun. And it's like the artwork from the graphic novel and everything. So it's just, you're basically just trying to get supplies and not get eaten by zombies by rolling dice, which is, like I said, objectively not the best board game. However, it's super duper fun and I really like it. But yeah, definitely Dead of Winter, I think, for me. For sure. So I think maybe we should jump into our listener voicemail that we received. We are going to be asking the audience every episode to participate in some way. And this month we asked for, some survival tips about a zombie apocalypse. And we did have a submission. We had a video submission. So I am going to play that now for everyone. We're going to hear what they have to say, and then we're going to respond. And then we are going to talk about our own, how we would survive, or how we envision surviving, or perhaps not surviving, whichever comes first.
Oh, hi Jamie and Evan, Scott here from the UK with my number one zombie survival tip. Now, I'm sure we've all been in those training days with work, the ones that start with everyone having to introduce themselves. Well, I use these to assess people's usefulness in case of an unexpected zombie apocalypse. What kind of skills do people have? That kind of thing. But anyone who's seen Day of the Dead knows that it's going to be no fun being stuck in an underground bunker with the wrong kind of people. So Scott's number one zombie survival tip is know who to sacrifice first. I mean, if I'm wanting to get Erin the engineer out of the building safely, you can probably bet that I'm willing to throw Terry the tax inspector to the horde so we can make our escape from the window. Now, that's the kind of tip you're not getting in a zombie survival guide. Graham, can you come here a minute, mate?
Oh, it's so good.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That was
That was
fantastic.
Awesome.
All
know
right,
who
so
to sacrifice first.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and say that in that equation, board game publishers, designers, and marketers would all be sacrificed fairly quickly.
What? People need
for yourself.
entertainment.
Do we sacrifice John the Doctor or Bill the Mechanic or AJ the Game Designer?
But you're forgetting one thing. We gamers have grown up playing social deduction games.
That's true.
So we are going to be able to sneaky sly our way into survival.
I would love to be in that room where you attempt to convince people that John the Doctor should be sacrificed instead of AJ the board game designer. That would be
Hear me out.
Be exciting.
By John the Doctor, do you mean Evan the business partner?
Wow.
And this is where the moral dilemma
I mean,
come in.
we already saw the mob is already waiting.
The rest of this work week's going to be intense, guys. Come on.
So really what we're proving here is Van Ryder Games will not make it in the zombie apocalypse.
Basically, because we'll all have sacrificed each other by that point.
Right.
It's like, who's it going to be? Well, it's not me because I'm in
Listen,
Canada,
Jamie-
so you can't sacrifice me.
I was going to say remote working in our favor.
Yeah.
Jamie, Julie, when it comes down to it, just remember what I've done for you when when the question comes is whether it should be me or AJ. So just putting that out there now.
Are we gonna have like a Survivor style like voting, like put names in a hat, just be like, I vote for
like the lottery,
sorry,
like the short story, The Lottery.
Exactly.
In all seriousness, I would depend on others for my survival, so I probably would not make it that long. I'm not one of these survivalists that knows how to go out in the woods and survive, or I can swing a baseball bat pretty well, so that's a skill that could come in handy.
A skill.
That's a skill.
Yeah. So
I think it would depend on my family. If my family all died while I was like not present, I think I probably actually would have a pretty good shot. But if my family was still alive, I'm toast, because I'm not gonna make it.
See, I think you'd do better if your family was alive but not with you. If your whole family was gone, you're pretty emotional, Evan. You might. No, So I think you need your family to be alive, but like you were like gone on a game convention, and you got to get back to them. You're making it then.
Fair enough.
So you may not like The Walking Dead, but from the television series, I feel like I have the underestimated Carol advantage. Of just being like, no, it'll be fine, sweetie, and lull people into a sense of security, and then.
I can totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then double tap them in the back of the head with your magnum.
No, not a magnum. That's going to draw attention. I'll have like a screwdriver.
A screwdriver. Yeah.
But you also have your like superpower of the sort of motherly educator, and you could band the little society together, and you could be the leader.
Yeah.
I can see it.
That's my, so as long as like I don't get offed in the first, I don't know, couple weeks, I think I'm good.
So Jamie, which closet are you going to be in?
Okay, let me tell you. So we have a very old home, and in our home we have something it's not what is it? I don't remember what it's called, but basically it's like a cement room where people used to hold water like a reservoir in our house, in our basement. So I could go in there because there's no zombie that's getting over that cement wall. And I'm just living my best life in my little cement room. But also I'm in Canada, so my expectation is that zombies are just going to be frozen for 6 months. And I could spend 6 months gathering, supplies and stuff to put in my cement room. And then we have an attic that also has like hidden compartments so I could hide from the people. I think I'm flying easy. Like if I can find a samurai sword or something, I'm good.
I have two very important questions about this.
Okay.
One, is there room for Jeff in the cement room?
Yes.
Okay. Two, which solo and 2-player games are you bringing in, and how many can you fit in there?
Well, listen, I mean, we have 1,000 games, so we have lots of options. It's going to have to be something that's not a lot of cardboard. I'll bring The Walking Dead, the dice game, because I consider it to be practice. Because I could just be rolling dice.
I can picture the dramatic scene actually right now. It's Jamie and Jeff in the cement room. They're not talking about going out to get food or gas or any of this. These games have gotten stale. We got to go out. We got to go get some of our other games from the game room.
We do.
Is it worth the risk?
Yeah,
I think it would be.
Yeah.
I do think like it would be very classic us to like put the live stream camera in the cement room, and then for some reason the zombies are super smart, so they're watching and they're like, they're in the cement room. And then they'll find us. But I don't know. I've thought about it so much. I'm like, would I survive? And in my head I'm like, I probably wouldn't. But then I'm also like, no, I think I could do it. If I can be fast enough. If they're not World War Z zombies, then I think I'm okay. Because they're just very fast and scared. The runners. Yeah. So what would everybody's signature weapon be? Because AJ, you said baseball bat, which I think makes sense.
I got to go with that.
Mm-hmm. Julie?
I don't have a choice.
A very long, heavy industrial flat edge screwdriver. It's practical. It's lightweight.
Smart.
I'm legitimately scared right now.
Yeah, it's quiet.
Oh my! Anything you put in front of me. So she talks about her Roman Empire being I can look at a room after Z-Apocalypse and be like, what is the value of this as a weapon for pretty much every everyday item I have thought up stats for in life? That is my Roman Empire, specifically the weaponry.
That's fun.
Good skill. Evan, what's your weapon?
I mean,
My charisma.
my charisma. my natural charm.
Zombies love that.
A cast iron tiki mug.
There you go.
Wow.
That is a
Very
very
Big,
good
heavy.
signature.
Also practical. I like it.
Lots of little pointy bits.
Mhm.
Won't break. Big and heavy, and you can smash heads in with it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if I do think about like what we have in this house that could be used, we have skates, we have hockey sticks, and no hammer, so that's out. That's it. That's all that we have. Skates and a hockey stick. 2 of them. So Jeff and I would be set. But I'm also curious if everybody could have a dream team. Like if you could have like 2 or 3 people on your dream team, and they don't need to be real people. It could be like, I want John the Doctor or whoever who is on your dream team.
Oh, I'm trying to remember his name. So I was on a podcast very early on with I'm not going to remember his name, and he lives out in Colorado. He was on. There was one season where they did the kind of Survivor-esque, but it was a modern day night where people they were showing their horse riding and fighting with antique weaponry skills. And he won the season, and it was a big upset. But before that, he had done the Iditarod. And then he was on Naked and Afraid after that. So he and part of the reason it was a big upset was everybody else on it was, trying to be like, I'm the toughest guy out there, and he is gay and very out and very proud of it, and was not like that. So very, hey, let's work together, and nobody wanted to, and he beat everyone. And we were on a podcast together, and I'm trying to remember his name, but he would definitely be on my team because he has both the, hey, everybody, let's get together, and also survival skills, for sure.
Perfect.
I already told him I claimed him for my zombie apocalypse team. He laughed and said, sure. So he's already said yes.
All right. I want Steve Irwin because he's going to know everything about them like within short order and be able to not only know, but tell us. Chris Kyle, American Sniper, because then they won't even get close to us. And probably someone like Michonne, because if they do get close to us, then she will keep us safe. So that's my 3.
He built that like a D&D party. I'm so proud of you right now. Ranged, melee, we got a tank, and we got the wizard. We're good.
Yeah.
You go, Jamie.
Okay. Mine's oddly specific. So don't listen. My massage therapist, I want to bring her because she's also a nurse, and she's real small and she's real feisty, and I think she could heal us and she could relax us if we needed it. And I think that she's also just badass in general. I used to work with this guy. His name is Daryl. He's from Georgia, and he lives on a compound, and do with that what you will. But he has everything that we would need. And I would go to him for protection for sure. And I also just think I would need Jeff, just because we're a good duo, and we kind of know how each other works. So, hockey stick, hockey skate.
Great. Now I have to put in the disclaimer. Jessica, if you're listening,
He abandoned
would be
you.
my number 1. It's just a game.
It's just a game.
What about Robert? Julie, would you take Robert?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
No, so what's funny is we've talked about this. We've had conversations about this. He has a lot of like electrical skills that people I don't think in the industry know, because it's always board games and stuff. So he and car mechanic skills. So he has a lot of practical. What my problem being is he's an impulsive being, and I feel like he would just die very early. So he's on my team, but he also knows, like, if he stays alive, it's because I am constantly being like, no, don't do that. Yeah. So obviously he's on my team. He's going to take a little extra effort. So I have to, really carefully consider who else is going to be on the team.
For my team, can I just pick Batman?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course
Okay.
you can.
Batman's on my team.
And you're dead.
Huh?
Bam, you're dead.
I said, and you're
you're in
dead.
the Batcave. I think
No.
Rich people aren't going to save you in the zombie apocalypse, Evan.
Listen, in this scenario, we are a team. Batman.
Oh,
likes
you're Robin.
me. No, I'm not Robin. Boo, not Robin. I'm better Evan than Robin.
What is Evan's superhero / sidekick name?
Oh God.
Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox.
There
Yeah.
you go. Silver Fox. Silver Fox and Batman, the zombie fighting duo.
I'd
watch that.
comic.
Yeah, I would definitely watch
Yeah,
that movie
see?
or read that
Uh-huh.
comic. I love it. I just want to tell a very quick story about Jeff's dad. We asked him, okay, so Jeff's parents live in the middle of nowhere. They don't have internet. They do have cable, but they don't know a lot of stuff about things. They live on like a farm and everything. And so we asked Jeff's dad, what would you do if there were zombies? And he was literally like, oh, I'd get a meat king from the freezer, which is like a big turkey. And he's like, I feed them, invite them. They befriend me because I have all this meat in the freezer. So that's how he would survive. It has stuck with me forever because I'm like, he literally thinks that that's the best strategy. He's like, well, I've got meat kings in the freezer, so I'd be fine. I just feed it to them. I'm like
Like
all
zombies
right,
are
then.
they're a bunch of stray dogs that just need a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? Has anybody tried it?
Not recently.
You never know. You don't know.
That's so true. So just to recap, this was a great episode about zombies. I hope everybody listening just learned so many things. Number one tip from our friend, from our listener, just sacrifice people around you and you'll be just fine. No big deal. Give them some meat kings. Special thanks to AJ and Julie for joining us. I know everybody's thinking, how do we get them on? Well, they work with us and they couldn't say no. So you love to see it. But thank you for joining us. And thank you to all of the listeners. We are going to be back again next month with another episode. And the episode is going to be about creepy crawlies, bugs. And Evan, I think we have a question for the audience. Would you like to throw it out there?
Yes. So our question is, what is your favorite bug-related joke or pun? The cheesier, the better. And if anyone knows me, I love my punny dad jokes, so I expect some real bad ones.
Yep. We want to laugh, that's for sure. And whoever can make us laugh the hardest, we are going to do a giveaway of a copy of Garden Guests. So, which, it has bugs in it. You love to see it. So make it funny. And you can send them in the same way that you did with your previous questions through our Discord. If you're not already a member of the Van Ryder Games Discord, the links and everything are going to be in the show notes. So definitely make sure that you join. You can send it to our email, marketing@vanrydergames.com, but get your jokes in. But that is everything that we have for today's episode. So thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next month.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.